Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 2025 World Rapid Chess Championship, a 3-day wild chess tournament, 13 rounds of action, and today I will be covering rounds 6, 7, 8, and 9. After the first day, there were several people leading the event with 4.5 out of 5, including Magnus Carlsen, and today there was a bloodbath at the top, including the likes of Magnus Carlsen. Plus, he shoved a camera of a cameraman. So that made headlines, because what would the World Rapid and Blitz be without some headlines, without a little bit of drama? It was all great. I will cover it all for you in this recap. We're going to kick things off. And also, I woke up today and I'm feeling a little bit sick. Nose, throat, you know, the typical December stuff. So if I'm not as energetic or I sound a little bit strange, please excuse me. Like everybody I know has been sick. So we're going to kick things off with the game between Maxim Vasiligraf, who was leading the tournament after the first day, and Magnus. We have e4. Magnus plays the Sicilian defense against one Maxim. Knight f3, knight c6, the Rossalimo with bishop b5, hitting the knight on the c6 square. Black plays knight f6, knight c3, and now Magnus employs this very provocative line where white is able to play the move e5, just walking into the center of the board, attacking the knight on f6. Not easy for the knight to jump to d5 or to e4, and obviously going to h5 is not particularly nice, but you actually have to do it or else you're going to risk having a severe disadvantage. Maxim clearly quite familiar with the dynamics of the position, getting a very nice thing going from the opening. It was actually Magnus who, after the move h3, spent 6 minutes. This was not him like arriving on time and then having to run to the toilet. He spent 6 minutes on this next move, which in Rapid is wild. You know, he ended up going for knight d4. I think he was just trying to remember some stuff. And he gets a very strange little position like this. And MVL chooses the wrong path with queen a3. From the opening, it was all Magnus. Good defense. Putting his pieces all on very nice squares. This crazy dance backwards with the knight. And things were looking good. I mean, it was looking like we are heading for a 5.5 point score. And then from this point forward, where Magnus actually had his best position, I think he wasn't particularly happy with the literal isolated triple pawn. Like, the rarity of having tripled isolated d-pawns on an otherwise open board is certainly strange. And he only has 2 minutes to figure out this position. Now, what I don't understand here is the game review gives this a miss. I have absolutely no clue in the slightest why that is a miss. Maybe queen c7 was better attacking the knight, but this is given a miss. Doesn't really matter. But suddenly Magnus starts going a little bit wrong here and gets himself not only into a time trouble, you know, he gets himself into, in just a few moves, actually a losing position. It is +2 for Maxim after d4, bishop to f6, and now the incredible knight to h5, simply winning. The idea of knight h5 is, if black takes, you then take on e7, bishop e7, queen h5, and apparently black simply doesn't have the defenses to stop your queen and bishop from going to checkmate your king, because this rook and bishop are just standing around. Like, they have no way back into the position. Knight h5 here wins for white, apparently. Talk about that. MVL instead goes here and then brings the knight back, and that's just not going to get it done. He allows Magnus enough time to bring back his pieces and stabilize, and Magnus, a little shaky on the first game of the day. You know, he does talk about playing in a flow, playing in a form, and it does not feel like it was there in this first game, which can only spell disaster in the World Rapid Championship, because anybody is capable of beating anybody else in this format. Now, we're going to get back to Magnus's day. He didn't. There were no cameras harmed after this round. This was simply a draw. Instead, we will go to a legend, a living legend of the game of chess, and of course, I am talking about Goutham Krishna, not Hans Niemann. Goutham's first round opponent was in fact Hans, which is epic. I mean, you can't script this stuff. By the way, still no profile picture on chess.com players for Goutham. Clearly, nobody from chess.com is watching this channel. Nobody is watching the recaps. Frankly, insulting. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, the name of the board game is in the site, and Nobody relayed that this person should have a profile picture. This is my formal complaint to the internet, which means it will be ignored. And how about this? Goutham, after Hans opens with e4, plays the Scandinavian defense. This dude is a meme lord, man. He played b6 and b3 the entire first day. He pulls up and he plays the Scandinavian defense against Hans Niemann. And listen, Hans already lost to one Goutham. He can't go losing to Goutham as well. Like, it's just not going to work. He plays d4. By the way, black plays queen d6. This is not the Scandinavian that I go for. And Hans plays knight e5. This is all normal. I think he was trying to remember some stuff here. Knight e5 is actually not the best move. You have to start with g3. And Goutham, just very good opening preparation on display. Hans Niemann in the early game, -1, playing some very provocative pawn sacrifice variation, putting the pressure on his opponent to actually prove himself. Black plays bishop g4, Hans plays bishop takes, and now knight takes g4 is the continuation with long castle, and Goutham would have just had an advantage against Hans, and I would know a thing or two about that. No, hardly. I will not rub in one win, you know what I'm saying? Queen takes, knight takes, Hans plays bishop takes c7 and is like, look, I just have to fight this dude on equal grounds, and hope that, you know, my 2700 level experience is going to prevail. You know, white, as always, looking for stuff like this. Black should probably play bishop b4. Oh, look, he played bishop b4, trying to get rid of the knight. But see, Hans did a very nice job here stabilizing the position. He brought his king into the middle. I think moves like king d2 instead of king b1, like in this position, understanding that king d2 going toward the center as opposed to kind of a lazy king b1, this comes from freestyle. I actually feel like Hans understanding piece placement and dynamics, even if they're on kind of unconventional squares, certainly helps. And this one's going to ultimately come down to a little bit of an endgame time scramble. No advantage whatsoever through 30 moves for Hans. Rook a1, f4. But at some point, the 2390 rapid rating will kick in, even if he's obviously Grandmaster level. At some point, a mistake will be made. That is what the statistics say. At some point, I mean, we're 50 moves deep into this game, but here it's coming. Black needs to play rook c6 in this position, but he puts his knight there. And this simple little maneuver costs him the entire game, because now white is winning. White is going to push that pawn. These pawns are simply not doing it. It's this pawn that's going to give Hans the victory. A lot of pressure, some 50, 60 moves. The king gets in, the rook gets in, the bishop gets in, and the pawn is going to get in as well. You're going to take the knight, you're going to promote. And that is the conclusion of the story of Goutham Krishna, although Goutham then went on to defeat Amin Tabatabai, so that is another win against the 2700 caliber player. And Goutham so far, after 9 rounds of action, is up 64 rating points, and maybe even more than that, because I'm not sure this is the accurate calculator, but yeah. Just a crazy, crazy tournament so far for this young man, and a crazy tournament for Hans Niemann as well. More on that later. Now, you talk about a shaky start, right? We just talked about that game against Maxim. Magnus versus Artemiev. Now, here's the thing about Artemiev. Artemiev's peak rating, if you look up Artemiev's peak rating, first of all, he's born in like 98 or 96, something like that. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. Young guy. Also a dad. That's what I remember reading. I don't know if there's some interviews. And obviously, he's a Russian player, so especially over the last few years, he hasn't played chess almost at all outside of Russia. Every now and then, he goes somewhere, and generally, it's the World Rapid and Blitz, but I'm not even sure he played last year, because probably a visa thing, something like that. But he's always been an elite Rapid and Blitz player and classical player. And, well, in this game, like I said, he doesn't have the flashiest style. He puts his queen spawn out. He puts pieces out like this. Knight d7, queen c2. He trades, puts his bishop in the center. Artemiev plays chess the right way. Like, if you take risk against him, like Magnus is doing, he's going to punish you. He's going to play in the center of the board. He's just going to play queen spawn chess, ready chess, fianchetto, like the light-scored bishop for white. He has a very, very nice style. Knight to e5, very smart, jumping in. Tension between all of the horses. White is slightly better here because black's bishops are just not of the same quality. This bishop is going to come out at some point. The rooks are going to be better placed. And he just has nagging pressure. The thing about these positions with nagging pressure, though, is that sometimes if you're not careful with the opposite color, you can come under fire here. You can come under a lot of, not just pressure, you can come under a fierce attack. He commits to the sacrifice of the pawn and goes for the attack. with just a minute remaining on the clock against 11 for Magnus. 11 minutes. Now, the best move here is actually a forced draw. So if Magnus were to accept this sacrifice, Artemiev's idea was bishop takes h6, pawn takes h6, bishop c6, and not taking this, but simply going queen g6, queen h6. I think this is his idea. I mean, what else can he do? He's down 10 minutes on the clock, right? Magnus, feeling 11-1, decides, let's play on, and plays queen c7. Queen c7 loses the game. He blunders a relatively straightforward tactic, and it's actually not the first time. Sometimes it does happen in this rapid and blitz format. You can tank for 4 minutes, and even the best player in the world is susceptible to tactical mistakes. The blunder is that the queen opposite this queen is pinned, and that means the d5 square is suddenly available to the bishop. Why is that important? Because after pawn takes f7, rook takes f7, bishop d5, Artemiev is winning. He's going to win the rook. Now, Magnus didn't have to take back on f7, but actually if he didn't take back on f7, it would be even worse. King h8, bishop takes h6, and queen c3 leads to literal checkmate. So he commits to this position, but Artemiev doesn't stop. He doesn't take the rook on f7, he sacks the bishop. Because pawn takes queen g6. Artemiev suddenly gets a rush, 20 seconds on the clock, but he is playing like a madman. Bishop d6. Now he picks up the rook, and all of the initiative in the position, queen to g6, h2 is given away, but now black loses time because he has to bring the bishop back. Meanwhile, Artemiev plays rook e1. This is maybe the moment right here that Artemiev plays his most clutch move of the game. With 18 seconds on the clock, he plays f4. Now he will gain access to the e8 square, and black's position is simply disintegrating. Magnus could have defended maybe slightly more tenaciously here instead of going like this, but it's as best as we're going to get. Artemiev, rook d1, and now the move that holds the game together, rook f6. Artemiev here plays rook d8, which is an incredible move. It's a completely incredible move. Sacrificing the queen, because if you take it, my next move is rook f8, king h7, rook h8, checkmate. But rook d8, despite being a brilliancy, allows black to play the only defensive move, bishop c6. It's actually the best position Magnus has had in like 10 moves. But I think Magnus here just must have felt like, okay, I'm just losing. Like, it's over, right? He's threatening all sorts of different tactics here to win the game. It must just be lost. But actually, bishop c6 could hold on. It could just hold on. Rook f8, rook f8. If you play queen e6, there's queen f7, and somehow by some miracle, everything holds together. By a total miracle. Instead, Magnus plays bishop takes g2, but the game is just over because queen g2, rook h6, and he goes back, queen d5, and the black king is just obliterated. King h7, he doesn't even wait for Artemiev to take. He moves his king to h7, resigns, starts walking away, and at this moment, as he's walking through the playing hall, clearly upset with himself, there's a clip out there. I'm not going to show it. I don't particularly care. You can find it if you like. There's multiple points of view. There's the point of view of the person recording what happened, and then there's the point of view of the person with the camera that got shoved. Anyway, this person's like kind of following Magnus down the hall, all the way to and then at some moment he gets too close. He, instead of using the zoom, he kind of like has the camera on a little stick, and he gets a little too close, and then Magnus turns and just like shoves it, and it's hilarious. And the internet is already writing things like, well, imagine if Gukesh did that. What am I imagining? He didn't. Shut up. Stop. Imagine if Hikaru did that. Okay? It's like, just enjoy the memes while we have them. All right? We got a little bit of fresh content, in this World Rapid and Blitz, little camera shove, Magnus angrily storming out of the room. Now, one of the things that happens when Magnus gets mad is you better get out of the way, because he might show up and start winning every single game. More on that later. Meanwhile, Artemiev, just an absolute monster. And yeah, Magnus in this game, definitely, there was like multiple points in which he was a bit rattled, because clearly bishop c6 was there, and he must have just thought like he's lost after rook d8, and he definitely blundered queen c7, so he certainly wasn't feeling let's say, as confident, as normal. Meanwhile, Artemiev is just playing completely fantastic chess. So kudos to him. Meanwhile, okay, I'm going to jump quickly back to Hans Niemann. We got a lot of games to cover. Hans Niemann, after defeating Goutham, playing Liem. This is the best player to come out of Vietnam. 2700 caliber, his rapid rating 2640, but Hans Niemann's rapid rating is 2612, which is nonsense because his classical rating is like 2720, 2730. We have a Spanish, we have an open Spanish, knight takes e4, d4, b5, bishop b3, d5. All of this has been played many times before. White captures, black solidifies the center, white goes here, black develops the bishop, white plays h3, preventing anything from going to g4. All of this has been explored. As you can tell, neither player is spending particularly much time, but white just kind of has a nice position from the opening. It's a little airy for black. e5, this, you know. So let's see if Hans is able to apply that 2700 caliber preparation and experience. Queen c2 is going to put his rook on d1. Apparently, king h8 is already a significant inaccuracy. Apparently, it was better for black to, you know, seek out more aggressive counterplay, because when you play a little bit passively like this, Hans is going to just get a very nice game. He's going to get knight to g4 going. Now the knights are going to start bothering the black king. The rook is coming to d1 at a moment's notice. And already it is time for Liem to do such desperate things as sacrifice the rook, but not for offense. He's sacrificing it for defense to try to kind of curb some of these pieces. But at the end of the day, Hans just has a rook, and the opponent has a knight. And a rook is better than a knight. And that is the riveting commentary that you get in your recap coverage of the World Rapid and Blitz. Rook to f8. There's the move, rook d1. It's just a matter of time. f4, very nice move. You can't really take this. You lose the stability here for d5, and it gives white just enough time. And another thing that it does is it frees up the third rank for the future attack, which is really nice. You undouble your pawns. Hans, beautiful. Look at this. He sacked his pawn because he knew he would need the third rank with rook d3, and the rook is going to potentially join on g3. Just beautiful chess. Like, really, Hans feeling it. Just like Artemiev was, you know? Rook e7, queen f4 check. If this is mate. If this is mate. And then rook h7. It's just fantastic chess here, and Hans spotting this beautiful idea f4 because he knew he would need to use the third rank in the future. Absolutely stellar victory over a very, very, very game opponent in Liem. Hans picking up a few wins in a row and ending the first day tied for first. More on that later. Meanwhile, all right, we've got a couple of more games that I would like to show you. Let me go here. Let me go to the star from Turkey, Yazkan Erdogmus, 2446 rapid rating. What the This is the strongest teenager in the world right now. I guess Gukesh is still 19. Okay, but he looks like he's 40. Let's say 18 and under, I would argue Erdogmus, he's up there, man. Like, he's really one of the best teenagers in the world right now. Playing Nihal Sarin, one of the best rapid and blitz players in the world. Just look at this game, man. You know, just a nice little stable opening. Queen e2 develops the queen side, everything nice. Now, meanwhile, you know, Nihal is closing up the position, looking for a long-term battle. And he's going to get it, because the second that the sides clash, it was Nihal showing the experience, which is crazy to say considering he's still like a baby. You know, showing the experience here and getting the better of the opening stage. But then, instead of playing the best move, which was keeping the tension with the move queen to e6, a little bit of a mysterious move, but trying to improve the structure, open up the f-file, etc., take away the d5 square, and maybe go for e5, he goes here. And from this point forward, with 30 seconds on his clock, the 14-year-old Turkish superstar completely, comprehensively outplays Nihal Sarin, who is one of the best speed players in the world. He threatens him with a repetition. He does not repeat the moves. e5, he continues hunting him in the center. The knights get into the position, and it's simply a matter of time before the black position completely falls apart. And you might even be mating Nihal Sarin here. Rook g1, rook to h5, and the black king is completely checkmated. Yazkan, on the second day of the Rapid, had the best day of anybody in the top 50. He went 3.5 out of 4. Listen to this tournament from this young man. In round 1 of this tournament, he lost to the defending World Rapid champion, Volodar Murzin. Then he won against the 2100, drew a 2600, and since then he has 5 out of 6 wins against 2580, 2580, 2600, 2630, and 2660. He ends the second day with 3.5 out of 4, and he has got the same score as Magnus Carlsen. He's got the same score as Magnus Carlsen after 9 rounds. He is half a point away from the gold medal. There are still 4 more rounds to go, but Erdogmus absolute unit, just an absolute machine. Impossible to contend with this man. Meanwhile, Magnus Carlsen, yeah, half out of 2 to start the day. Let's see what's going to happen here. Will he be able to bounce back, or will he show up in a Speedo, to try to test the limits of the dress code this year, and then they would amend it the next year? I'm just joking, current events joke. E4, E5, that's what I've seen this idiotic take online, like he lost and then he was mad, so then, people online were like, well, is he going to withdraw from the tournament this year? Dude, it's been rough, man. I feel like 2 years ago, people they loved Magnus. Now they just any opportunity to jump at, anything is just it's vicious out there, man. Anyway, bishop e7. Magnus plays knight c3 and a3. Doesn't play a4. a4 is another move. Plays a3, h3, just kind of like a super sideline Italian ideas of knight d5 in the future, etc. Black plays bishop to e6. Magnus plays knight d5 and castles and rook e1 and just completely normal, insignificant moves. And then, we finally have our big trade here of bishop for knight. Black drops the knight back. Magnus sees this, wants to open the position with de. Black plays e4. All normal, all have been seen before. Now, I have to say I like White's position a lot. White has the 2 bishops. He's going to set them up either on those diagonals or on these diagonals. And it looks like it should be kind of easy from here. It's not easy. It's the Italian. It's one of the most resilient openings in chess. And from this point forward, it does kind of look like a ski lift. It just kind of goes up like this. Magnus just builds up the initiative, puts the bishops on great diagonals. And yeah, Shant is under significant pressure. But it's the World Rapid Championship. And in the World Rapid Championship, anything can happen. And anything will happen, especially when you've blundered in the previous game. You're not going to fully trust yourself. So actually, the advantage, according to the wonderful machine, dipped significantly. Here, after rook c4, Shant was as close as he was to drawing this game in 25 moves. 13 seconds on the clock. Magnus declined a trade of rooks. The thing is that here, Black had to continue to be accurate. And the computer cannot show you the way. It can only show you that it thinks it's 0.1. The only move here to hold equality is queen to d2. Simultaneously attacking this pawn, forcing queen takes pawn, and getting queen takes pawn yourself. And so it wasn't perfect, but we got there in the end. Fans of one Magnus Carlsen can rejoice. Rook to d1 on the board. The pawn is going to push. The rook is going to get in. And he is the best endgame player in the world for a reason. He's going to pick this pawn up. He's going to have a 2-pawn advantage, or Black is going to go rook e6, which is just endgame, death. You will not be able to play this position. And Magnus gets a win against the Armenian star Sargsyan. Now, one more game remains for Magnus. If he defeats Ray Robson, he will have 7 out of 9 and be tied with the likes of Erdogmus and others. So let's see what happens. And then we will look at several other games that are relevant to our standings. Will he bounce back from a tough draw, a loss, and a win? Will he end with 2 wins in a row? We have Ray Robson, one of the best American players. Okay, we have a Queen's Gambit declined. Seems like everybody, their mom, their dad, and their dog is playing the Knight BD7 Queen's Gambit declined when they're looking for a game. We have just completely normal chess here, nothing significant, just everybody just developing in the center. D and C pawns supported by E and B pawns, and life is good. Knight drops back to the E1 square, opening up the light-squared bishop, and it's going to become a wrestling match in the center of the board. Who's going to gain the better positioning? Black has the isolated pawn, but he's going to try to push forward, maybe occupy the E4 square, maybe go to F6 with the bishop. Let's see. Maybe occupy the E4 square. Okay, now we're not going to the F6 square just yet. One thing about Ray Robson, as you can see, he has played 16 moves of chess, and he has 40 seconds on the clock. Ray Robson is the opposite of you. You play a 15-minute game of chess, and at the end of the game, you have 16 minutes because you just got the bonus time every move, and for some reason, your ass plays a 15-minute game but can't sit still, so has to make a move every 5 seconds, and you lose, but you have more time than you started with. Ray Robson plays 16 moves of chess and has less than a minute. Like, he has made a career doing stuff like this, but I'm looking at this like, bro, what are you doing? Like, I'm not one to talk. I'm sitting here on my ass analyzing the games of the World Rapid. I'm not playing, but Ray, I'm sure this is not the winning strat. I'm just like, I don't know. Rook c5. Now, having said that, the position's still completely in the balance. The problem is at some point your nervous system is bound to give out. By the way, he did end up putting the bishop on f6. That's what I said would happen. Queen d3. Magnus trades, but he limits the trades to right here, and he targets the pawn on e2. Now, this is not an easy pawn to protect. In fact, it is not really possible to protect it unless you play queen back to b2. Ray goes here. The problem with that move is it doesn't defend the pawn whatsoever. Bishop takes e2 still appears on the board, and now white is just in a lot of trouble. You cannot take because of this, rook c1, and if you take, I would take with the pawn, and I would be attacking your queen, and that would, or I can even take with the knight, but I think taking with the pawn is better. Yeah, now Magnus is winning. The knight goes to g5, nice move. Knight goes back to e6, queen's got to move, black escapes, and black just has an extra pawn. And, well, he's going to use it. He's going to push the pawn. He's going to use the pawn as an anchoring mechanism, and then probably he's going to push it. And if he's not going to push it, then he's going to use it to trade. And then he's going to win some pawns, and probably then he's going to push it. And of all the games that Magnus played today, this one felt finally the smoothest. The smoothest one. Tough game for Ray. I mean, it's just so hard to play when you don't have a lot of time. But every move you're reacting with like 20, 30 seconds. I feel like Ray might be kicking himself a bit. I don't know if Ray's ever played against Magnus. I know Ray's my age. He's born in 95, I think. So we've always been in the same year. He's just a little bit of a better player than me. Not like too much, but just a bit. Yeah, I think after a game like this, you're kind of like, man, like could have done better. But good game for Magnus, and he ends with 7 out of 9. It seemed like he was going to be far away from the top after losing and drawing. And in this tournament, anything is possible. Now let's see who is going to be up there with him. We have the matchup between Gukesh and Nodirbek Abdusattorov. This is a fun one. Uzbekistan-India is like super modern day rivalry in chess. Nodirbek gave an interview where he said his hot take is Gukesh is not going to defend his title in the next match. Not even against any particular opponent. He's just not even going to defend it. Like, did he mean even if he plays me? Or like, did he mean if he plays anybody? Anyway, this is a matchup you always look forward to, right? Because Nodirbek, by the way, one thing, I didn't show this game yesterday. Yesterday, Nodirbek lost in 10 moves, which, for the record, I could have joined this tournament and done much better than that. I could have lost in like 12. Nodirbek played against the Danish Grandmaster Jonas Bjerre. And yesterday he played this opening with black, where, you know, Jonas played some interesting sideline. Black went d6, and it was bishop c4. Nodirbek went queen d7 and straight up lost the game in 10 moves because white went bishop e6. Jonas spent 7 minutes convincing himself that black actually lost the game, and bishop e6 just wins. It just wins on the spot because you cannot take the bishop, and white is threatening knight takes d6 and so on, and queen f7, and is just totally winning. So Nodirbek got hit with this incredible move, lost his queen, and then, you know, maybe I wouldn't have converted an extra queen against him, but I think he was just so bewildered at what happened. Yeah, Jonas here, 1 minute on the clock, just great game, super smooth. And you lose a game like this, you're like, wow. I mean, Nodirbek's going to have a rough tournament, but he storms back to the top of the rankings, and now he's playing against Gukesh, who plays the ready, and now we have kind of a Catalan thing. This position is not particularly interesting, but it can get interesting in rapid. Knight back to a6. White is going to try to exploit the symmetry of the position, the pawn structure. Knight a4, knight c5. Nodirbek, you know, kind of like waiting. Gukesh plays this move e4, kicks out the bishop, but now his light-scored bishop's a little bad. So now what do? Okay, he continues with knight c5, but Nodirbek very precise. Rook d8. Not easy for white to put the queen somewhere. Anywhere you put the queen, it's going to get hit. It goes to e1, so it doesn't get hit. It's going to get hit anyway. It's going to get hit. Now on f3 or maybe on c2. You know, knight b3 ideas. Queen is coming to b5, potentially very dangerous position for white. Yeah, Gukesh plays king h1, almost like a pass-back move. Nodirbek plays b6, and now we're going to have a spicy game on our hands where Nodirbek is feeling this initiative. Goes bishop e2. You really don't want to play a move like rook g1, but he does. And now we have queen b5, and even though black is down a pawn, everything feels right here. You know, it feels right. Everything is feeling good. Gukesh is going to try to fight back, goes for a queen trade. Doesn't really matter. The rook is trapped. The rook is trapped. Look at this position. Rook c8. That wasn't the best move, actually. Gukesh fought rook d7 was better defending the pawn. Now it's a little bit back to equal, but it's a time scramble. Gukesh doesn't have a lot of time, and he's down material. It's not feeling particularly good. And my guy, Nojibek, rook d8, giving up the rook completely. And the point is that if you play e5, there is no rook hanging in the corner now. So if white had gone e5, there's the idea to sack the bishop and then get down here with f6. And yeah, Nojibek has watched enough of my channel that he knows you can sacrifice the rook. Bishop e5 is a beauty. Back-to-back brilliant moves. And it takes some 40 moves of this game. But he gets a totally winning position against Gukesh. And he's just going to go on to win this endgame. Black's rook is just much better than the knight. And the pawns are not impressive. King f4, rook g4 is coming. King c4, eat both pawns. Promote this one. Nojibek, Abdusattorov, the pride of Uzbekistan, takes down Gukesh. I think that was Gukesh's first loss. It was. It took 9 rounds. But in this tournament, you lose in the 9th round. It's just as painful as losing in the first. And Nojibek lost in the 3rd. He would know something about that. But he also goes 3.5 out of 4. He has a great day, just like Erdogmus. And they both have 7 points out of 9. I will pop over to the women's section. We have the defending world rapid champion, Humpy, who had a blistering second day of chess. This game, you might want to put a hand over your kid's eyes because this one is nasty. She plays a double ready, a ready double fianchetto. These positions are not particularly, spicy. You just kind of play positional chess, right? Wrong. White develops the pieces, and at some point, Humpy's like, yo, I don't think black can play like this. Like, her knight is out here. This is not impressive. If I trade the knight and push for g4 ideas and maybe e6 and attacking, I feel like I'm gonna win this one. So she just plays very stable, and here comes h3. She's preparing g4 in the future. Knight d4, she's preparing g4, f4 in the future. She's cooking it up. Black doesn't really have an easy move. And the thing is, if you make too many, kind of nothing moves, yeah, white is just gonna start attacking. First, she takes over the file, and now this disgusting move, e6. E6 doesn't even look like... What is the point of e6? Remember Artemiev sacked the pawn, e6? E6 destroys the structure, opens up the e-file for the queen to hunt, and the idea is simply to go knight c5. It's not even to go knight g5, it's to go knight c5, but e6 collapses. The black king is just so weak. Knight c5 comes in. Rook d4, rook d4. Black hasn't moved the rook. It's been 25 moves. That poor guy hasn't moved at all. Rook d7, that poor guy is still not going to move. It's still not going to move. Rook e7 is the threat. You have to go knight to g7. She goes rook e7 and knight d7 and knight f6 check and queen to... Humpy just played 31 moves of chess, and the black rook did not even participate. Khadem could have played this game with no rook at all. It could have just been gone. Look at this game. Just relentless. Absolutely relentless. After 8 games of action on the women's side, she has 6.5. She's undefeated. That's 5 wins and 3 draws, and she is on pace for another gold. She is tied for first with Drew Jenner, and they haven't played against each other yet, so they will. And obviously yesterday, that was the whole story. There's another amazing story on the women's side of things. A young woman born in 2009. 2009. Is that a real birth year? I mean, I just played kids born in 2016. She's born in 2009. She's 16 years old, 2100 rated. And she lost in the first game of the tournament. And after that, she has scored 6 out of 7. Yes. Yes, 6 out of 7. And no, I did not select this game because of the memes. I mean, she played Alexandra Kosteniuk, who's one of the best women in the world for the last, 15 years. Yeah, and 2100 rapid rating. We talk about stars in the open section. This game was very tense from the opening. Kosteniuk, very, very combative and creative player. Rook c8. White played solidly, kind of navigated the waters, got it into an endgame. Not even like a tactical game, just a pure endgame, putting the pressure. Kosteniuk needs to navigate whether she wants to play these games for a win, but she's obviously not going to play this one for a win. She has to defend this endgame, and it's just unpleasant. The 2100 rated teenager. But even g4, I mean, g4 you don't play here. White is totally winning. I mean, a5 you can go for. She opts for g4. I think she just thought well, the pawns are equally frozen. But Kosteniuk goes for a little bit of counterplay here. White walks the king to the queen side. This game is still maybe drawable, but it's very challenging because the white pawn is going to walk up the board. The king is going to hide. You're going to try to promote. The computer is able to hold these endgames in a draw, but literally, if you give the wrong check, you lose type of situation. This is drawable. Queen e1 is the wrong move. You had to play queen. You had to play, oh my gosh. You had to play queen f7 check. This is the draw. Because queen b7, you know what you play here? King h8! You set up the stalemate trap. I think this might still be winning for white, by the way. Because now you can't give a check on the back rank. Maybe you play queen e6, a7. This, maybe not. This might be a draw. This might be a draw. But this is weird. Because it feels like it should be winning. But table-based knows. Well, regardless, Kosteniuk plays queen e1. That is not the best way to hold the position. White runs the king out. And now we'll get a winning position because after some checks and good queen positioning, the black king can now no longer be stalemated. The black king needed to be in a stalemate position. And Yining Chen has 6.5 out of 8 points. 2100. 16 years of age. Just a FIDE master. Just a FIDE master, you know. And yeah, it's all about these amazing stories in this tournament because yeah, I mean, these players are all contending, you know, for this glory, but they also have an opportunity to just play an incredible tournament. 2 more games from the Open. We'll quickly click through these. Alexei Sarana, Queen's Gambit declined, Queen f3. This kind of unbelievably boring line. Goodness me, I hate this line. I just do not understand it whatsoever. But now it's kind of a dynamic endgame. Knight versus bishop. You know, you're going to look for the f5 square for the knight. You're going to look for the outside pass pawn. Alexei Sarana. Guys, we're 38 minutes into the recap. You know, like, let's be honest. The diehard chess fans who are watching this right now, I got a lot of respect for you. Everybody else already clicked on something in their sidebar. You know, some sports highlights, some, I don't know, some financial expose, whatever. It's Alexei Sarana getting things done, promoting his pawn, nice positional game. He also has 7 points out of 9. And one of the fun stories of this tournament is Cristobal Enriquez from Chile defeating the World Cup champion Javahir Sindarov and many other players, by the way. He also beat Rapport and he beat Christensen, the Norwegian Grandmaster. And he's had a fantastic event. Also, just like, what a boss. E4, E5, D3? You kidding me? D3? Bro's literally playing the King's Indian attack against 2700s. You gotta love it, you know? I've played Cristobal in, like, online blitz, but I didn't know that he was this much of a monster in rapid chess. And he just kind of, like, took a big center, made a bunch of improving moves, you know? He knows Sindarov at some point is gonna make a break and try to attack him. So he tried, for the most part, you know, to keep the game tense and interesting. And the second that Sindarov did not, you know, find the best footing, like this completely, like this queen trade to allow a pass pawn is, I mean, I'm no 2700 World Cup champ, but I'm not even sure I would have played that move. You know, I would have found a different way to lose. But Sindarov allows the pawn and Cristobal just converts this game like his name is, you know, Cristobal Petrosyan or Cristobal Carlson. You know what I'm saying? Rook d4, a3, simple improving moves on the queen side. Constantly threatening the trade of the... Look at this king walk, man. His king's just like walking into the black position. Look at this. Rook d6, b5, beautiful play. Brings this guy back, ready with rook b2, rook b5, and Sindarov resigns. Cristobal has 6.5 out of 9. He got 6.5 points. He lost 1 game. You know, he lost 1 game. He has 5 wins. 6.5 going into the last day of action is probably not going to get it done, if I'm being totally honest. These are the results, all right? So Artemiev and Hans Smokey Niemann are tied for first. Hans Niemann is in first place. That's awesome. Going into the 10th round, what are the pairings? Do they have the pairings yet? They probably do. I would imagine it's Artemiev Niemann because they've never played each other. And one of these boys, see, if these guys draw and some of the 7s win, the more that the top draws and the more that the 6.5s win, the better it is, obviously. But if one of these guys wins, it's going to be really difficult. And if you have 6 points, you definitely can't win the tournament. 1.5 with 4 games to go, just not going to get it done. You are looking at a gold medalist in all likelihood from this score group. These top 6, And maybe if one of these boys wins 3 in a row, you know, they have a chance. But yeah, that gold medal, generally 10 out of 13 is a gold medal. And you only need 2.5 at the top now. You only need 1 win and 3 draws. They're going to lock in. And it's going to be tense tomorrow. But it's kind of crazy. Like, anybody here can win. Shimanov, by the way, I'm a fan of his. I like his work. He lost to Neiman in the last round, but he beat Caruana, Girian, and Draken. Yeah, I would love to cover more games, but I kind of don't want to make hour-long recaps. Yeah, these are your standings. And unfortunately, all the Cinderella stories are gone, except Meng Yihan from China, who has gained 85 rating points. That's all I have for you today. See you tomorrow. Get out of here.